What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here. We're doing another film club. Groot, look at him. He's right here. He's right there. Say hi, Groot. You guys, welcome back. It's me, Carson Higgins, your host, with my buddy. We watched a Jean-Luc Godard film this week. Boy, did we ever. Had you seen Weekend before? If you had, then you knew before I did that I was in for a really wild time, and you didn't even really let me know. I mean, a couple of you said how good it was. Shout out to Ryder and Anthony Adcock. You guys were like, this is a good one. And I agree. It was very good. I loved it. The people I watched it with did not. They thought it was about nothing. They couldn't get into it. And I had a very different experience. I got right into it. I loved how weird it was. For those that don't know, Jean-Luc Godard is one of the godfathers of French New Wave cinema. Him and Francois Truffaut kind of blazed the trail for quite a cinematic movement. And Jean-Luc Godard has made a lot of good movies. We've watched two of them here in this, three of them. This is our fourth Godard film. What's up? I believe, yeah, we did Vive sa vie first. We watched Breathless and Pierrot Le Fou. And now we're at Weekend. His 1967 film. Got him nominated for the Golden Bear at the Berlin Film Festival. What's up? But yeah, 1967 had some great films that year. Maybe you're a fan of The Graduate, or maybe you liked the film that we watched just a couple weeks ago, Young Girls of Rochefort. That's also from this very same year. Another French film. But yeah, this one is fucking bizarre, pardon my French, but in such a good way. Godard is a complete and utter Tasmanian devil of a cinematician, which is what he is. And yeah, long story short, you have two people, seemingly a couple, and they are in a car on their way to some place called Oiville or Oil. Maybe it's a real place, maybe it's not. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you something. Being an American in 2020, watching a 50-plus-year-old movie that is extremely referential to French things, there's so many things in this movie and in other Godard films that just go right over my head. And probably, I don't want to assume, but right over yours as well. I mean, how much can you talk in an evening about the politics of Charles de Gaulle? Me neither. So without a huge knowledge of the issues involving Algeria and just post-war France under de Gaulle and this influx of existentialism, intellectualism, all the isms basically. But Godard is quite a political filmmaker, whether he wants to be called that or not. And this film it's a very satirical take on middle-class French life. You have this couple who it seems like they're both trying to wait for either of their dads to die so that they can get the inheritance, and then they're going to kill the other one. So it's basically like whoever's dad dies first is going to get murdered by the other, and I'm going to run off with the money. That seems to be in there somewhere. I did write down, this was the first thing I wrote down about this film. Strange episodes of pseudo dream world. Because it does seem to take place in like this weird dream world. Maybe. I don't know. It starts with that weird fight over the car. And then this really long monologue about an erotic episode. This woman, I believe it's our main character. I couldn't really tell. It was all in silhouette. And it was the first thing I saw in a movie I didn't know anything about. So, you know, maybe upon repeated viewings, I would get more out of it. But these are just my first impressions. You have this monologue that's an extremely graphically erotic story. But the entire thing has the two people in frame, silhouetted, so you can't really see them. And there's this very loud music playing over what she's saying. And the camera is very slowly in an unbroken take going in and out. So, mind you, I'm watching this with my mom and my girlfriend. They didn't know anything about this movie either going into it. But they're sitting there watching this monologue play out. And I will say the nice thing is if what she was describing was being shown to us, we probably would have had to turn it off because it just wouldn't have been an appropriate movie to watch with my mother. But I found it hilarious because I immediately kind of at least got what I thought was happening. So maybe this was the intention, maybe it wasn't. But this in and out camera was clearly sexual in nature and hysterically so to me. And then you have this extremely erotic monologue happening with this very loud music happening over it. You have attractive people talking about it, and yet we can't see them. So in a weird way, it's like Godard is forcing you to want to hear this story, which I thought was, which involves, you know, ass play, and there's an egg involved, and there's multiple people. I didn't memorize the monologue, but I will say, I was sitting there like fighting to hear what she was saying, and yet anytime I would catch part of what she was saying, I'd be like, oh shit. So, and that is the first like 15 minutes of the movie basically. So anyone that can't make it through that probably wouldn't make it through the rest of the movie. I will say, you know, you'll make it. You'll be fine. It's then followed up by seemingly the most famous scene in the movie and just an exquisite piece of cinema, which is a 10-minute traffic jam. Now, it's been talked about by other critics and film heads and stuff, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it is a great sequence. You have these two people that are trying to get through this traffic jam. Now, the traffic jam in question is happening on a country road in the middle of nowhere. The traffic jam is happening on one side of the road, and so our couple is on the other side of the road, like cutting the line, basically. And there is little to no dialogue for the entire scene, but there is incessant honking from every single car. And as you move through the line of cars, and as our leads are moving along the opposite side, it's just a smorgasbord of stuff to see. There's people that are not in a car at all, that are just sitting having a picnic. There are circus animals. There's like an army of children at one point. There are cars that are randomly just like turned over and on fire. There's turned over on fire cars throughout the entire movie. Basically, there'll be like an intertitle where words come up, and then like we cut to a car wreck, and our two characters are like in that area now. So it has kind of this Wonderland / Looney Tunes thing going on. Real quick about those intertitles, especially right at the beginning when it says weekend and everything. It says something like this film was found in a garbage dump or something. But the font and the way that the letters were popping up on the screen and stuff, I was like, I've seen this before. And I don't know if you noticed it or thought this as well, but it's the beginning of Birdman, the one that came out just a couple years ago. Iñárritu must have been paying some homage to Godard and to Weekend. I think. Check this out. Okay, so I wrote down a bunch of stuff. You have the honking horns, you have this sex monologue, you have the juxtaposition of this traffic scene, which I thought this was really interesting. So it's like we're in the middle of nowhere, right, in the country, dealing with a traffic jam, which is very industrial. Then much later in the film, we're on like a farm or something, and this guy is playing Mozart and talking about how great Mozart is, and playing just like a whole piece of music by Mozart, and the camera is panning around, and we see the people that work on the farm or live in the town or whatever, and they're like doing nothing, like literally nothing. And I thought it was so cool because they're also like dealing with, don't worry if you can hear the construction in the back, there's just people building their beautiful home. Merry Christmas. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, it was just cool because you have like this classical music in this classical French town, but with all these like newer industrial elements, like the brand new tractors and the brand new these and that, amongst these like very older world seeming people. There's also a great section where these two people are fighting about a car accident where a tractor in the car has crashed, and there's this very fashionable young man with sunglasses who's dead in the car, and we cut to him, and we cut to the two people fighting, and then we cut to this weird like family portrait that's live, like we're not taking a photograph, but it's like a bunch of people posing for a photograph, and it's just so strange because we're hearing the fight continue to happen, but we're watching this, and then it seemingly happens again later in one of my favorite scenes in the whole film, where we find these two guys eating sandwiches, like an Algerian guy and some African guy, and they're both eating these sandwiches, and there's a really funny, like, kind of political undertone to how and why they will and won't give part of their sandwich to these two people. And then the Algerian guy is like, I'm going to have the African guy say all my lines. And so he sits there and is eating the sandwich, and we're watching him eat the sandwich, but listening to his thoughts come out of that guy's mouth. And then after like a 5-minute monologue of that, we switch and do it all again. Everything I've been telling you so far, if you can't follow it, you probably didn't watch the movie. And also, you might have watched the movie. Because it is, you know, like I said, without knowing all the references from the time and from the place, there's just a lot of stuff that's going to go right over our head. There was a part that I thought was maybe an homage or a parody of Umbrellas of Cherbourg, where the kid from 400 Blows is all grown up, and he's like singing all of his dialogue in like kind of a conversational way on the phone. And so I was like, wait, that guy looks kind of familiar. And it's the kid from 400 Blows. He plays another role in this movie Weekend. He plays like a Napoleon kind of guy. I'm not sure if he's Napoleon, but he's like in the middle of the field doing some old something or other. You guys, this movie is really crazy in the best way. And if you've been able to follow me this far without seeing the film, you should watch the movie. And then you should also watch those other Godard films that we've watched in this club. And then just explore him, because he's still alive. He's totally still alive. In the middle of this pandemic, I don't remember when, because they all blend together. It's all April. It was like his 90-something birthday, and there was like a live stream that I watched of him talking, and he was being interviewed by someone speaking French. He was speaking French. Everyone was speaking French. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I was so tickled to see this 90-something-year-old guy who's still making movies. You know, maybe you've seen some of his stuff that he's made in the last 20 years. I haven't, but I'm curious, especially now. I'm like, every time I watch one of his movies, he just intrigues me that much more. Yeah, if you feel stupid watching his movies, don't worry. Everyone feels that way. I feel like he goes out of his way to make you feel dumb. He'll quote some literary thing or some political, you know, philosophical something or other. And if you don't know about it, that's okay. But a lot of the times, he puts so much of these things, it's almost like a Family Guy episode of just like reference and quotes. And if you get interested and curious and you start to dig into what he's referencing and quoting, then you'll only understand him more as you move through his filmography. So maybe we'll do it together. How's that sound? You won't have to do it alone. I won't have to do it alone. That's great. All right. You know what? Groot and I are done talking about Weekend because it's just too weird. But in the best way. Oh, and it ends with cannibalism. So, you know, enjoy that. If you're not already, go ahead and follow us on Filmstruck Film Club, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you're on the YouTube, yeah, I called it the YouTube. Go ahead and like and comment and subscribe. It actually helps. You know, it helps. What do you know? Don't you want to help? It's Christmas. I'm going to pick something kind of Christmassy, not necessarily a Christmas movie, but something that maybe will warm me up over the next week or so. Yeah, follow Filmstruck Film Club, like I said. Also, check out the podcast. That's cooking. We've got 5 episodes out now. The first rule of Film Club, wherever you want to listen to podcasts, go check it out. Subscribe and do all that stuff too. But yeah, new pick coming. Groot and I, we'll be back. You'll be back. I love you guys. Happy holidays. Keep it real.